Hi, Brian. How are you?
How are you, James?
I'm good. What's the weather like back there?
It's cold. It's cold. Wind chill tonight is supposed to be 20 below. It's about 15 degrees now with a wind chill around 0.
Okay, you got some snow on the ground?
In the southern part of the state, we've probably got 1.5 feet on the ground. Up north, they're probably 2 to 4 inches or 2 to 4 feet. So yeah, there's a lot of snow here.
Yeah. Okay.
How about
well,
there?
It doesn't sound too bad. I mean, I had some viewers send me some pictures earlier that we ran in the show, and it was terrible. Well, okay. So much for the weather. Listen, this book you wrote, outstanding, outstanding. I want to tell you, viewers, before I go through this. I
co-wrote it. I want to say I co-wrote it with Nathan, nephew. So.
Okay, you did. I'm sorry. That's right,
Yep.
Nathan.
That's all right. That's all right. I got to plug Nate, or he'll be mad at me.
Okay. Well, if we're going to do that, then you got to credit Lorna Bergman for the illustrations.
Oh, beautifully illustrated.
Beautifully illustrated.
I do think.
Listen, this book, and I don't know. Tell me what your intention was here. How long did it take you to work on this?
Oh, that was probably a 6-month period or so to write it and to work on it. The idea has been brewing for about 1.5 years. Open carry in Michigan has really taken off in the last 3 years, and I thought it was nice to have a kid's book on the Second Amendment. There aren't a lot of books out there that are pro-gun for kids. There's a lot of anti-guns books out there for kids, but not too many pro-guns. And so I thought, well, how can I approach this? And I thought, well, why not open carry, incorporate that, and then it was a platform for me to talk about a lot of different things. I talk a little bit about the Second Amendment, about gun safety, about the responsibility of people for their own self-defense, that they can't rely on others for that they have to make that decision. So all of those things kind of went together into this book, and I hope people enjoy it. I think it's educational. It'll certainly be thought-provoking, and it could be enjoyed by adults as well as older kids.
And that's exactly what I want to stop right there, because that's absolutely right. You address issues in this book, and it's a quick read, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go through this rather quickly. Beautifully printed, a very nice book. This is the kind of thing that you want to have copies of, not one copy, many copies of, so that when you talk to your neighbors and friends that have children, that this book should be available to them. Brian's doing the best he can, and we're going to do the best we can to help Brian get this book out. Now, some of the things that you address in here, and let me just clarify this. This is not, you're right, this is not just for children. This answers a lot of the questions that adults have that they're not sure how to verbalize.
Right.
Let's go over here to, and I'm going to go through some of these, some of the ones that I highlighted. Let's go over here to page 4. Page 4, for instance, it says, I guess they were leaving for somewhere, and the neighbor came out and said something about them being armed. And
right.
I'm going to quote from the book here. You just never know when you might need to protect yourself and your loved ones. People wear seat belts and have fire extinguishers. They hope never to need them, but it's best to be prepared, I always say. Now, see, that's a very good point there. I mean, I think all of us in the back of our mind, Brian, we think that, but sometimes we don't actually say it when we're confronted with people who are anti-gun or afraid of guns. Maybe not anti-gun, but just afraid of that first look at guns. So that's one of many points in here that is well thought out and well printed.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we want people to read it, take away from them. It's good for people that might be on the fence, that necessarily aren't pro-gun or anti-gun, but maybe considering the idea of carrying a firearm or getting involved in the shooting sports. I hope it helps them verbalize and think about all of the pros that entails. So I'm hoping that'll convince people, to get more involved and take that responsibility of self-defense.
Yeah, and the other thing that you have pointed out in here, of many things you've pointed out, another one on page 6 here that I really especially like, is that when we are either concealed weapon or open carry, and then it varies from state to state, of course. But when someone does identify you and that you do have a weapon, okay? Now, and someone approaches you and asks you some question about it, you address that very nicely on page 6 here, where they're in a store, or in a hardware store, I believe, and a woman with her child sees the person open carry. And she says, Brenda noticed that the woman was fearfully clutching her child, and the woman commented, "What are you doing? Guns are public and wrong. Guns are public are wrong." And you go on to actually, in an old phrase we used to use in the media, load their lip, and that's what you're doing here. You're loading the lip of those of us who do carry with the exact kind of responses we should have to those things. You go on to say, this woman is complaining that they kill people with guns, the military should only have guns, and you make the perfect point in here when he turns around to that woman and says, displaying a gun can deter a crime from happening. Well done.
That's right. Thank you. And I also pointed out that I admit that guns can be dangerous, just like chainsaws, just like power tools, just like any kind of tool that a person uses, they can all be dangerous. It's the person that must take responsibility, learn how to use the equipment, and be safe with it. But it's not the gun that's evil. It's people do evil things, and that's what you want to protect yourself from.
And back here on page 14, another example, Brian, back here on page 14, there's another point that's well taken here. We've discussed this with Mark, with David Kodria, we've discussed it with the NRA, and I think people still miss it, and you bring it out well in the book, that there are several cases of robbers who staked out a store to rob only to go somewhere else because they saw someone in the store that was armed. Well done.
Thank you. That's taken kind of from a real case, as you may be aware of the Waffle House outside of Atlanta. Mark's, I'm sure, very familiar with that, where there were people sitting at the restaurant that were armed. It was late at night. They were having a late breakfast. And a person came in and looked kind of suspicious, like maybe he was casing the place out. He left rather quickly, went out and back, and were sitting in their car, apparently, with some of his cohorts there, armed to the gills, and a police car came back behind there, saw that they were kind of suspicious, stopped them, and they actually admitted that they were there to rob the Waffle House, but they saw the guys in there that were armed and decided to wait until they left before they wanted to go in there and rob it. So, yeah. And it's hard to prove that those things don't happen,
right?
Because how do you know somebody was intent on hurting you? But I give another example later in the book about that as well. Yeah. I can go into that if you'd like.
Well, let me go on to some other points here, because you cover some things that, and this one I'm coming to now is on page 16, where this is the responsibility of the person who has the gun. When the lady says, suppose someone comes up behind you and tries to steal it from you. Okay, now this is where a permit holder, either concealed or otherwise, that may become into an area where this could happen, where someone could come up, I suppose, and try to grab the gun away from them, that this is about how you handle the weapon that you have. And you point out the fact that that's why we have good retention holsters. And all of us know what those are. That absolutely prevents anybody from grabbing your gun and taking it out of the holster. And again, page 16, you made another good point there.
Situational awareness is another one.
Right.
Be aware of your surroundings. Don't let anybody come up behind you. Always have that yellow light on the light color scheme. You always want to be in that situation where, when you're out in public and you have a gun, that you're aware of your surroundings. And I make a few points about that, and I actually have the characters play a little game with each other, between the daughter and the dad, about trying to sneak up on each other and to get Brenna to start learning to be aware of her surroundings. So that's another option as well. We don't know of any really documented cases where just a citizen open carrying has had their gun snatched from them.
Right.
Police, yes, because they're wrestling, they're fighting with desperate people that want to get away. You know, their guns could be snatched, but we don't know of any cases. Now, I admit in the book that it could happen. Lots of things could happen, but a retention holster, situational awareness, both of those things, and you can have training for gun retention as well. So all of those things can come together.
Right, and I think you end the book very well, because after taking the public and the readers through all these situations, loading their lip, as I call it, and telling folks how to react to these particular questions with very good answers, you end the book talking about going to the range with the young girl, and that's what it should. That's the way it should end. It should end that this is not just carrying a gun. It's not just in defense of you having a gun. It is part of your responsibility to know what you're doing when you have the gun and spend time at the range at it. You know, Brian, I can't say enough about this book. We need to get this out to thousands of people.
Well, I thank you. Yeah, I wanted to create a book. One thing about shooting at the range, it's a family thing, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it keeps the family together. It's something that they can do, you know, for the rest of their lives. You know, she'll have kids, and they can all go shooting with the grandkids. So it's a lifestyle, and I think it's a healthy, wholesome lifestyle.
Right. Listen, I just want to congratulate you again for putting that book together. I have not seen anything like it on the market. I don't think there's another one out there that addresses it as well as you have. And I'm going to ask you this last question. What's your next book?
Well, the publisher and I are talking, depending on how well this does, and seems to be doing pretty well now. We've talked about a series, and maybe Brenna and her family will do something else to go along with this line. I would love to do 3 or 4 more books, maybe as Brenna grows up and goes to college and things like that. You know, I mean, there's a variety of things we can do. I think the series is a great idea, Brian. You did a wonderful job here. Again, folks, if you see this, if you need to get it and you don't know where to get it, White Feather Press, and let's see and I think that's probably where you'd like to direct people, correct? White Feather Press is fine, and we also have an individual website that you can go to, which is myparentsopencarry.com. And if you go to White Feather, it'll have the link back to that, and they can view some of the pages on there. They can look at some reviews. Eventually, we'll have some reviews and things on there. So, yeah, they can order it there, and they can. One of the things we like to do is have people maybe donate them to their school libraries or to the community libraries. I mean, that's something that some people have said they were going to do with their.
Right. No,
so that's a possibility as well.
Even better than that, Brian, everybody I know should have 5 copies. Should have 5 copies in their home, because you are going to have people as guests and friends and at parties who are going to bring this subject up, and you hand them the book and say, this is a quick read. Next time you go to the bathroom, take this in there with you, because when you come back out, you won't be asking those questions anymore.
Right.
You'll have the answers right here. Listen, thank you very much for coming on, Brian.
Well,
outstanding
it's my
book.
pleasure.
We look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.